Whew. I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even know how to start this video because there's a lot of stuff that I want to unpackage, and yet again, because people don't seem to understand that I really don't script anything that I speak about. I kind of just go off the dome and I think about what I want to talk about and what I think is pertinent to whatever I'm talking about. So for this, I'm gonna try to go in order. So first of all, by some crazy miracle, I've passed 100 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has stayed with me to up until this point, and welcome to all my new subscribers. I appreciate all of you. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna do a 100 subscriber special. If I do, you would have to let me know what you want me to talk about that's super related down below. Now that I got that out the way, the second thing that I wanted to talk about was in regards to the last video that I made. So I want to be very clear, right? This show as an aggregate is pretty trash. I don't think that's ever going to change. But I think that that last episode, which is something I didn't state, which I feel like I should have, was attempting to go in the right direction. It was attempting to display the difference between Goku and Kefla and Kale, and doing it in a more, a more honest manner without the bullshit, the fluff. Because let's be real, Kale being being her Super Saiyan Berserk and stomping all over Super Saiyan Blue was bullshit. We know it's bullshit, and I think the writers know this bullshit too. And that's the reason why one of the first screenshots you're seeing here is from a flashback in the episode where Goku is recalling the transformation, right? And nowhere in this recollection does he even mention or think about the fact that she walked through a Super Saiyan Blue Kamehameha. So I'm thinking that the writers are they've truly established that they really don't know what they're doing, and they honestly, it's not even that, it's a little bit even worse than that they don't even know what they're doing. They don't care about establishing any sort of logic. This show, whatever you want this show to be, is not what you think it is. This show exists for two things. One, entertainment. Just entertainment in shock value. Because the whole thing that Toriyama has always been about, and this goes all the way back to Dragon Ball, is he's about shock value. He's about those eye-popping moments where, the underdog does something crazy, something that normally you wouldn't expect to happen. And I feel like he's just really, as an old guy who just he's really was done with this series a long time ago. He doesn't really give a fuck anymore, right? This is just a way for him to get more money and, I guess, pass the time. That's the only thing I can think of, right? This is not only just for entertainment. This is also marketing. Like they're making millions upon billions of dollars from this show. Whatever you expect from this show to be, whatever you want this show to be, I just want you to discard it, throw it away, because it's never going to be that. No matter how much I want it to be that way, it's probably never going to be like that way. And even though I feel like the last episode was heading in the right direction, as soon as I watched this episode, it confirmed what I was thinking, and that it's never going to continually go in that direction. The way that base Goku was basically, styling all over Kefla and Kale like he should have been from the start, like that's not going to continue. At least I don't think it is. I don't think that level of presentation is going to continue. I don't think that this show in general is going to be heading in a more positive direction than it did in that episode. I think that's probably as far as it's going to go. We might see another episode down the line where it kind of is reminiscent of what we've seen in the past episode. But again, in order to even get to that point, they had to contradict everything that they did prior, which kind of just nullifies anything that they established from the start. So I just wanted to get that out there. Another correction I'll make is in the last video, on a comment I said that I didn't pin it, but I basically said that Frieza, Final Form Frieza, is equal to base Goku, which is not correct. Base Goku is stronger than Final Form Frieza, but they're still relativistic. But it's arguable that Golden Frieza is still slightly stronger than Super Saiyan Blue Goku, if that makes any sense. Uh, Now, this the third thing that I want to talk about is this isn't going to be so much as a review or a rant, but more so a discussion. See, the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that I'm very careful, and I watch how people react to certain titles and what titles bring in views. Even if those titles are accurate, I already know what you guys want to see from me for the most part. You want to see rants. I know I'm not wrong in thinking that, because anytime that I put rant in the title, I immediately get in. I go off the rails, I rant a little bit, and I make a 20-minute plus video on it, right? I see it. Like, I instantly get like 500 plus views within like a week on that video. The instant that I put a review, those view counts drop. So you guys want to see, obviously you want to see rants, but honestly, I don't really want to do nothing but rants. I just don't want to be that guy who does rants or reviews. So I'm going to go over the episode, but I'm also going to be discussing specific elements of it and trying to break it down in a way that makes sense to you without using immense amounts of headcanon. So this isn't so much a review or rant, but more so a discussion. I'm probably not going to put that in the title because you won't watch it or be less inclined to, because you don't know what the fuck. You've never seen me make a discussion video before. I discuss stuff in the topic, but I've never made like a whole episode of this dedicated to a discussion. So for this episode, I'm kind of going to be doing a discussion. Hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. With all of that unloaded, let's get right into this. So as I already stated, right, it appears that the writers are distancing themselves from what they did in 100, where Kale basically, they just did a recycling from the Broly movie, where Broly just walks through a Kamehameha or just tanks whatever, right? And it's just apparent that they did that only for shock value, and they thought that they were doing something that viewers would want to see, that Broly fans would want to see, but all they ended up doing was pissing off the entire Dragon Ball base. And you've seen the result, you've seen the backlash. There's the reason why so many rants, like, I'm not the only person that does this, obviously. I'm not blind. I can see that there are dozens of other people like me who are doing rants in the series because it's a show they care about, and I'm not the only person to point out this is bullshit. You know, Super Mizaku has done some shit like this. He's made reviews, and there's a couple other people, Real Talk, you know those people are, right? Aside from that contradiction, one thing that I find to be very interesting, that I cannot tell where this is going to lead, but Vegeta seems incredibly confident in his own ability when he's talking to Toppo. Now, I figured that, Vegeta would be able to beat Toppo. I said barely be able to beat Toppo. I don't know, because he hasn't displayed anything that's displayed that he's stronger than Goku. But even after Goku used his 20 times Kaioken, even after getting his Ultra Instinct form, for some reason Vegeta still maintains the fact that he is the top dog. And I can't tell if this is just sheer arrogance, as Toppo pointed out, or if he truly does have some wild card that we're not aware of. Maybe it's a Master Super Saiyan Blue like in the manga. Maybe he's unlocked a new God state. I hope they do not do that again, because I really I know that this show is never going to be what we want it to be, or at least what I want it to be, which is a show that's focused more on the growth of a fighter, not so much on just nothing but power levels. And I don't see the show going that way. It was a mistake for me to even try to project that on the series to begin with. But I don't know. I'm not sure why he keeps saying that he's at the top, but I guess we'll see in the future, and hopefully he gets his time to shine later on in this arc, because I feel like he hasn't really gotten, because he's always the sideshow. He's always the second string. And whether people, I never really talked about this or not, but Vegeta, personally, I like Vegeta a lot more than I like Goku, because he seems, well, one, he's more intelligent than Goku. Two, he doesn't let himself get stomped on for absolutely no reason. True, like usually when he gets beat, it's because literally he just cannot beat that opponent. Whereas, as we've already said, the contradictions have been laid out. Goku being stomped by Super Saiyan Kale, Berserk or not, is complete bullshit while he's a Super Saiyan Blue. In order for that to be even remotely possible, he would have to have been suppressing himself to he must have been suppressing himself to less than half of his full power. It could have been maybe 20% of his power. It might even been 10%. I don't really know. But he suppressed himself in the ground. I'm going to be going into that further into the discussion. But regardless, I think that personally I find Vegeta to be a more enjoyable character, despite the fact that I made fun of him. But I can't really be mad at Vegeta because this is the same thing that we've been doing with a lot of people saying they don't like 17 or they don't like Kefla or they don't like him. Don't blame the characters, okay? Blame the writers. The writer, like the characters only do what writers want them to do. So I mean, you can dislike you can dislike the characters, but the writers are the ones that are making them the way they are. And this is personally what we've seen from Vegeta thus far is not the Vegeta I know. What we've seen from Goku thus far is not the Goku that I know either. So that's my opinion on the topic. I would also like to there's a mistranslation done in Crunchyroll where Goku says that I can't stop shaking. This must be her Saiyan instinct, referring to KO after she uses her Super Saiyan Berserk, right? This is actually a transformation. That's not supposed to be. Sorry, mistranslation. That's not supposed to say her. That is supposed to be. That's supposed to mean that that's his Saiyan instinct, if that makes any sense. So he's not shaking because of her power. He's shaking because essentially he's getting riled up. His own Saiyan instinct is riling him up, and that's the reason why he's shaking. He's shaking more so that he's excited, not that he's concerned or scared. So that is a mistranslation on the part of Crunchyroll, which there is another one that I want to go over, and I will talk about that later as well. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was more so of the bond between Kefla and Kale, and why it just seems to be so. It seems to be so oddly sexual for no apparent reason. Like the sexual tension in this episode is kind of insane. I don't truly do not understand this seemingly lesbian relationship between Kale and Kefla, but I really don't like it. Like if they were like actually like they had that type of relationship, fine, right? I don't really care. But the way they carried it out in this episode with all this constant hand holding it was cringy to me. I wanted to pause the episode and just I just wanted to sit there and then just fast forward past all that shit. But I had to watch the whole thing, so I got a general idea of what I wanted to talk about. But I don't know what the writers are doing here, but this shit was cringy to me in its entirety. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Probably feel the same way. I thought it was cringy. As I already went over, Berserk, Kale went into her Berserker state and mastered it, and I mean, there's nothing more to say about that. She mastered her Berserk state, and her power increased. I don't know by how much, but it was stated by Tien that because since they can sense their energy, they could actually have a word on this for once instead of talking about fucking powers that are way beyond their league or their perceptions anyway. So apparently her power increased by, well, a lot, and so she's finally mastered her Berserk state. Yet again, they're doing this we're gonna beat this guy together type thing. They have this, we're an awesome tag team relationship. But the fact of the matter is, as I've already went over in the past review, this is very suppressed Goku. The fact of the matter is this is never going to change. What happened and whatever happened between like 100 and 103, I can't even take it at whether or not it's accurate or not, because this is contradicting all of that. So I'm just going to have to throw it away as being inaccurate. Given that he is still severely weakened and somehow he is magically recovering his energy while fighting, which doesn't make any sense. Literally, he said that he was tired from fighting Jiren, yet somehow he's gone to Super Saiyan 2 and even briefly went into Super Saiyan 3. I don't understand how you're able to do that while tired and you're supposed to be resting. But I mean, that's what's going on. Another thing that I want to go, while I'm on the topic of that, I'm going to be bouncing around a lot, so I want you to keep up with me here. So, remember that I stated I did not understand why it looked like he was, like he was doing basically a similar transformation from when he first unlocked Super Saiyan when he went to Super Saiyan 2. What some of my commenters pointed out was the reason why he did this, and why they showed it like this, the way he was doing this, because they were trying to display a struggle, right? That he was struggling to go into Super Saiyan 2 because, he was tired. I'm going to say this so that no one else fucking questions me on what I said in the last video. That is complete bullshit. Here is why. Yet again, we have the writers not knowing anything about the series because, like I've already went over, they don't give a shit about the series. Toriyama doesn't give a shit about the series. If Toriyama even bothered to pay attention and even reread what he wrote in the past or whatever he did in the anime, right? We know for a fact that Goku mastered Super Saiyan. He mastered it to the point, along with Gohan, to the point that they could use it while sleeping and or napping. Remember that time when Krillin took a rock and he threw it at Goku while he was napping, right? While he was sleeping. And that means that while he was going in and out of consciousness, or was basically in a deeper REM sleep, that he was still maintaining Super Saiyan despite all of that. And that was back in the Cell Saga. When now, I've already gone over this based off of power scaling, which I already remember that power scaling video. I said you can't take that as an example for anything, right? That doesn't really mean anything. That's basically if scaling was consistent throughout the entirety of Super and Z. If we were to say that scaling was consistent, I'm aware that I can't say this for 100% sure or as a fact. Goku, right now, would have to be tens of millions of times stronger than he was in the Cell Saga. Undeniably, he would have to be that much more stronger if they gave a shit about scaling. If that Goku in the Cell Saga could use a mastered Super Saiyan, which basically used up absolutely no stamina since he could use it in sleep, that means that it should require virtually no stamina for him to go into Super Saiyan 2 or not while he has God Ki and God Essence. It doesn't make any sense that he would struggle to go from that point to this point. He should have been able to go into Super Saiyan 2 in the blink of an eye. Just like, and then again, this is further backed up by the fact that if he was so freaking tired, then why did he struggle to go from base to Super Saiyan 2, but then went from Super Saiyan 2 to Super Saiyan 3 in an instant? It's the same Goku. Super Saiyan 3 has a heavier stamina drain than Super Saiyan 2, so how come he was able to struggle from going from base to Super Saiyan 2, but didn't struggle at all to go from Super Saiyan 2 to Super Saiyan 3? He struggled to maintain Super Saiyan 3 and lost it, but the actual transformation process from 2 to 3 was fluid as hell. Again, the writers contradicting themselves in their own episode, which is something that I didn't even pick up on until I actually listened to my own words and rewatched the episode again. So, now that I've gotten that out the way, and how, again, with the contradictions being as intense as they are, I could go about this for an hour. I don't want to keep you here for an hour, so I'm going to try to move forward, right? Another thing that we came across in this episode, right, is we already went over that final form Frieza is weaker than Kefla and Kale, right? I think we can agree on that. If you don't believe me, you can go ahead and watch any fight between base Goku and final form Frieza. Base Goku always has the upper hand. He's always beating his ass, right? So, mind you, that like Frieza, he came and he's like, I'm about to take over. I want, like, these Saiyans, I don't like you anyway, so I'm gonna take over for you, right, Goku? I'm gonna take over for you. You don't really have a say in the matter. And one thing that I found interesting, that he was going to challenge them in his base form. mind you that Super Saiyan 2 Goku, he's heavily suppressed, heavily drained, is fighting these two on his own right now. But Base Frieza, after seeing Kefla basically charge up an energy attack to fire at him, he just laughed and put up a finger to fire one of his death balls. Which means that he is confident in not only his ability to take on Kefla by himself, but he could probably take on Kefla and Kale because he's fresh. Which means that if it wasn't for the fact that Goku was drained, that means that base Goku should be able, if he was completely fresh, if he was at, like, you know, start of the tournament Goku, would be able to beat Kefla and Kale if he used base form while he was absolutely fresh. Which means that the only reason why he's using Super Saiyan 2 is not only because he's still training them, but because he is so heavily drained that he needs that amp in order to keep up with them. Because yet again, Final Form Frieza is weaker than base Goku when he's at prime. So, if base Goku is stronger than Frieza is, that means that base Goku should be able to do the same thing that Frieza is able to do. But Goku stopped him and said, listen, I started to fight them first. This is going to be my fight, right? You're not taking over here. Frieza attempts to shoot him in the back, but of course, that wouldn't work. Unless Goku let down his guard again. I don't even want to go into that, because that'll make this shit an hour long. But, right, if that's the case, then this is even more confirmation that the writers are further, and they keep going further and further down the rabbit hole, and they keep contradicting themselves more and more. So, yet again, I want you to remember, there is no point in trying to hold them to any sort of standard of logic anymore. They're not following any standard logic. If base Goku at prime could take on Kefla and Kale, then what I said in the last rant that I made was absolutely correct. That Goku could have used base the entire time and stomped all over Kefla and Kale. Especially considering the fact that Kale has a Master Berserk form and he is still keeping up with them in Super Saiyan 2. The next thing that I want to talk about is one of the theories that I went over in my last rant, where I stated that Super Saiyan 3 Goku possibly has a heavier stamina drain than Super Saiyan Blue. It turns out that I was right. I literally cannot believe this. But he didn't go into Super Saiyan 3 again. He went into Super Saiyan God this time, which is even more contradiction. So not only was I right about Super Saiyan 3 having a heavier stamina drain than Blue and apparently Red, but he didn't even need Blue to fight Kale like I stated. He went Super Saiyan Red this time and he was all over their shit. So how do I know that Super Saiyan 3 Goku has a higher drain than Blue and Red? Well, he didn't use it here. It's literally that simple. Because as I already went over, when he went Super Saiyan 3 in the last episode, both Kale and Kefla were concerned by the power. They knew it was a lot stronger than they were, because it's a 4 times power increase. Right? So, based on the fact that he went over God and he's still drained, and he knows he can't maintain Super Saiyan 3, that means that God has to have a lower stamina drain than that. And since Blue has a heavier stamina drain than Red, that means that, you know, Super Saiyan 3 has an even higher drain than Blue as well. Again, I don't comprehend how this is even remotely possible based off of the scattered logic that's been throughout this show. The more powerful the transformation, right? The more power you exert, the more energy you use. This is shown several times, not only in Z, but in this series as well. So, for example, when Goku and Vegeta fused, and Vegeta, when they were fighting Merge Zamasu, the reason why they ran out their transformation before an hour is because they were using so much power that they lost the transformation. Because more power means that you end up using more energy unless you've mastered that state, right? Even before, when Kale basically walked over Super Saiyan Blue, she started losing control. Once she used so much energy and she increased it past her limits, she was starting to lose her transformation well before she got one-shotted by Jiren. Again, that is even more evidence by that. But it appears that the transformations as displayed by Goku don't really follow that logic. It should be that Super Saiyan, for him, uses the least amount of stamina. Super Saiyan 2 uses a little bit more. Super Saiyan 3 uses a little bit more than that. Red should use a little bit more than that. And then Blue should be the highest level stamina drain. But where it appears to be right now is that Super Saiyan 1 has the least, then it's 2, then it's Red, then it's Blue, then it's Super Saiyan 3. That makes absolutely no sense. Based off of the fact that, again, this guy is tens of millions of times stronger than he was back in the Z saga. Even if I discount the Cell saga, he's still tens of millions of times stronger than he was in the Buu arc. Hands down, like he just was. Or he is. So, I don't understand why he has not mastered Super Saiyan 3 to the point that it has a lower drain than Red and Blue. But for some reason here, it appears that Super Saiyan 3 has a higher drain than those. And it really, honestly, there's nothing more I can say, but except that it doesn't make any sense. It's completely contradictory to how much power he's gained and how much mastery of ki control that he's gained. I don't get it. Again, because I still believe that Super Saiyan 3 Goku should be enough for Super Saiyan 2 Kefla and Super Saiyan KO, even with Master Berserk, because usually when he's fighting strong opponents, whether or not he's serious, he usually goes in order 1, 2, and then, you know, like he did with Jiren, he skipped Super Saiyan 3 instead of, I don't know why he would skip Super Saiyan 3 unless it has a higher drain than Red and Blue, and he skipped the Red and he went to Blue. So the only thing I can think of is that Super Saiyan 3 has a heavier drain than Red and Blue because, as I already stated, he didn't go in order here. He skipped right to Red, and even before that, as I just brought up, he skipped Super Saiyan 3 when he was fighting Jiren. Take that as you will. Doesn't make much sense to me. I think that that's kind of absurd. The next thing that I want to talk about is obviously the elephant in the room, and that is Kefla. So shortly after it appeared that Goku had beat both of them, of course he didn't, right? We know he didn't. I said in the last rant that this is cheating. Like, you shouldn't be able to fuse. This is cheating. There's no help from outside the ring. Unfortunately, it's not cheating. And before you say, whoa, that there's no way, dude. That it has to be cheating. It has to be. Well, if that's cheating, well, by that logic, then Roshi using his Demon Seal bottle would have to be cheating as well. We can't say one is legal and one is the other, because here's the way it went down, right? Kefla and KO received these Patara earrings before the tournament, so they were holding on to it this entire time. Since they got it before the tournament and they took it into the tournament with them, right? It's still considered an item, which they don't appear to be illegal as long as it's not a weapon. Apparently, items are not illegal as long as they're not weapons. So, since they got it before the tournament and they weren't thrown into the ring with them, it is legal. Take that as you will, but unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's legal. That means that Goku and Vegeta could have gone Vegito in this tournament, but because they didn't take any Patara earrings with them into the ring, they can't do it. The next thing I want to talk about is this screenshot, and the reason why this is actually important to the idea of not only Kefla, but Patara Fusion in general. First off, I would like to say that Patara Fusion has never truly been explained in a very clear way, because, as I've already gone over several times, the writers don't explain anything about anything, right? There's never been any clear establishment for how Patara fusions actually work. What we know is that when Goku and Vegeta fused, it was basically Goku times Vegeta. That cannot be said for every single Patara fusion. Why? because that is heavily how strong the Patara Fusion is dependent on the parts, right? So that's the reason why when Zamasu became merged Zamasu, right? That merged Zamasu was significantly weaker than Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, simply because the regular, not Goku Black, just regular Zamasu was a lot weaker than Rose Black. So their combined power actually drained their average lower than if they were both of equal strength. And the same thing was displayed in this episode after he went, Goku went Super Saiyan God or Super Saiyan Red, whatever you want to call it. It was shown very clearly when he was using his Ki Blast and he basically tanked the shit out of KO's Berserk attack and then fired his own Ki Blast of his own. KO was able to deflect it even though he was literally toying with it. Like, you had to see this shit. Like, he was toying with them when he was, spinning his hand, like, look at the flick of the wrist type shit, right? He was toying with them. Regardless, though, KO was able to deflect his Super Saiyan God attack, whereas Kefla was not. So it is clear that Berserk not only has at least 100 times multiplier, but Mastered Berserker KO is stronger than Super Saiyan 2 Kefla. Since there's a disparity between their powers, right? We cannot just say outright that their powers are just, they should be necessarily stronger than Super Saiyan Red Goku per se. And that's the reason what I'm going into is that this statement made by goddamn it, Vados doesn't make any sense, right? Because as we've seen, I've already said, there's no real confirmation with the way that these fusions work. But there is one thing that is very, very consistent amongst Patara fusions, and that is, no matter how strong or how weak the two users are, whatever their strongest state is, their base, whatever they fuse, once they first fuse, whatever they start off as, is stronger than the strongest forms of the two parts, right? If that makes any sense. So let me explain that in case you don't understand what I mean by that, right? Let's take Zamasu, for example. We know the strongest form for Black was his Rose state, and Zamasu doesn't have any transformation. When they fused, it became Merged Zamasu, which means that Merged Zamasu is stronger, while he was in his base state before he became mutated, was stronger than Rose and Zamasu combined. He's stronger than them. We can agree on that, right? When Goku and Vegeta became Vegito, right? After they were getting stomped on while they were in blue, right? Once they became Vegito, base Vegito gave Merged Zamasu a scare. Which means that base Vegito is stronger than Super Saiyan Blue and Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta combined. That is consistent. That is consistent logic. That is the one way that the writers have not contradicted themselves up until this point. So the problem with this, even though there is a mistranslation, and it's not supposed to say tens of times, it should be several tens of times, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because we already know that, remember when I said, when we were talking about Vegito and we are talking about Zamasu, the one thing that we can point to it for Vegito is we know that base Vegito is stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku when they did it back in the Buu Saga. That means that when they fuse and they multiply, that is hundreds of times power increase. Not tens, hundreds of times. There is absolutely no way that Kefla would be able to keep up with God Goku with just tens of times power increase in base. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that is directly contradicted by everything that has been established not only in Z, but in Super by the writers thus far, further adding into the fact that they really either don't know what they're doing or they just don't care, or a combination of the two. Sorry. So this statement is completely inaccurate just from that example below. If you think I'm wrong, think through it yourself, right? I'm not going to think for you. A lot of people seem to think that when I'm talking, You know, I think I know everything about this series. No, I am just speaking and sharing with you my ideas about the show and what I think is accurate and what I think is not accurate based off of what I've seen thus far. And based off of what I've seen thus far, anytime that there is a Patara Fusion, anytime, while it does not always give the same multiplier when they fuse, it is almost always a 100 times power increase or greater, so hundreds of times, so that means 100 times to at least 900 times power increase based off of the parts. So tens of times doesn't make any sense. It should be hundreds of times. There's no way that they would be able to compete otherwise. The next thing I want to talk about is for Kefla. It doesn't make any sense, even if it was tens of times, right? Even if it was hundreds of times, it does not make any sense that Kefla in base should be able to compete with Super Saiyan Red Goku or Super Saiyan God, right? There's absolutely no way. You're probably wondering, well, why is that? This isn't my headcanon or, you know, something. I'm just speaking bullshit, right? Kefla was drained from all this fighting and was injured prior to this fusion. Kale was not as drained and less damaged, but definitely not in peak form. They didn't take any sensu beans. And what some people do not realize is that if you get injured, the max amount of power that you can output is drastically, it decreases by a lot. So just so you understand what I mean by that and how I know that to be a fact, right? You can go and you can look at official guides. But if you look, if you go back to all the way back in the Frieza saga, I know I referenced the Frieza saga. We'll just say I reference it a lot because that's where a lot of people really fell in love with the show, right? There's that crazy fight between Goku and Frieza. A lot of people love that shit. Maybe you fell in love with the Gohan Super Saiyan 2 versus Cell fight. It's neither here nor there. But the point is, right, when Frieza, remember that he took a times 20 Kamehameha, times 20 Kaioken Kamehameha from Goku, and then he took a Spirit Bomb from Goku, right? So he got injured from that. What people don't realize is that when Frieza went into his final form, right, and he was using 100% of his power, his power level was 120 million. Right? We know this. His power level was 120 million. The reason why Goku was stomping all over him was because his power level was 150 million. What people don't know, and something that has never really been talked about by a lot of people in the community, aside from Seth, and that's that's the reason why I watched Seth, because he's taught me some stuff that I didn't even know about the series, and he's one of the people that got me involved in the series. If you have a problem with that, I don't really care. I still think he's a respectable person, but we're not going to talk about his reputation here. But one of the things that he pointed out is that when Frieza was in his final form, 100%, he had 120 million. However, according to the guides, his max power level was actually 200 million. But because he was injured, the max amount of power that he could actually output was 120 million. So you understand, the dude lost, that means he lost 40% of his power from being injured. So how do you think that would affect a fusion, which is supposed to be the component, the parts, the multiplication of the parts between Kefla and Kale? Well, that means that Kefla should be a lot weaker than she's being displayed here. Right here, she's being displayed that in base, she's capable to keep up with Super Saiyan Red Goku. Granted, right, he's suppressed, but we've already went over that he was already heavily suppressing himself while in Super Saiyan Blue when he fought Kale, and that's the reason why he got stomped on. And we've already gone over how base Goku could have already taken out Kefla and Kale in his base if he was in his prime form. So by that logic, that means that this Kefla, while it's taking the injured Kefla, who is also weaker than Kale, should not be this powerful. Now, again, this is just a theory of mine, right? Because I know for the injured part definitely plays a part. I know that plays a part. That's not a headcanon or a theory. That's a fact. But for this, right, she should be a lot weaker than what she is right now. If base Frieza, right, if base Frieza was going to take on these two combined, that means that Golden Frieza would stomp all over Khalifa's face. Therefore, this scene, this little ending scene that we see right here where Super Saiyan Blue is defeated, it's not logical that Super Saiyan Blue Goku would lose to Kefla even if she was in her, you know, Super Saiyan Berserk Master state or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? I don't know if I don't think that Goku being defeated is going to happen by Kefla's hand. I feel like that's going to happen by someone else's hand, but that's neither here nor there. Of course, these are just theories of mine. These are my opinions. I personally don't think that Kefla should be able to keep up with Super Saiyan Red Goku, Blue Goku, none of that shit, even if she went berserk. It honestly doesn't make much sense to me. But, you know, this is just a discussion. Let me know what you think down below. Obviously, a lot of you are going to agree or disagree. I don't really know. Hopefully, you like this style of video. If you want me to do more stuff like this, let me know. I kind of rambled a little bit here. I didn't expect to go for 40 plus minutes. But hopefully you enjoyed the video nonetheless. And if you did, like, subscribe, comment, do all that shit. And don't forget to let me know what you want me to talk about for the subscriber special. Thanks for all the support these past couple weeks. Ours out.